Tonight, our exclusive sit-down with President Trump, what he just told Kristen Welker about why there still isn't a deal with Iran and why he thinks the Iranians are holding out. Plus, the president's push on the economy as prices at the pump begin to fall. Will it be enough to win over Americans before the midterms? Also tonight, the scare on the International Space Station, NASA's emergency order sending astronauts scrambling, the alarming leaks hundreds of miles from Earth, forcing the crew to rush to shelter in a space capsule. The efforts to repair those cracks right now. The undecided elections in California, votes for governor and LA mayor still coming in. Could we get a call tonight? Our Steve Kornacki, he's back and he's at the big board. Dramatic video of a Marine veteran fending off a group of teens trying to carjack him at gunpoint. Wait till you see and hear all of this story, how he was able to disarm them. Heart-stopping rescue, a woman saved just before her SUV is fully submerged. Hacking Meta's smart glasses, our tech analyst investigates the trick some are now using to secretly record you. And our series, Great Americans, tonight best-selling author John Grisham, how he turned his life as a small-town lawyer into literary gold. Plus, college sticker shock will show you the schools that now cost more than $100,000 per year. Top story starts right now. Good evening. We begin tonight with the NBC News exclusive interview with President Trump. Meet the Press moderator Kristen Welker going one-on-one with the president. She pressed him on the war in Iran, and he says Iran is desperately trying to make a deal. So why are peace talks stalled? The president also revealing new details about how much missile capacity Iran has left nearly 100 days into this war. That interview happening on the road in Wisconsin, where the president is making his economic pitch to Americans, touting a stronger than expected jobs report in front of a room full of farmers, also mentioning gas prices, which have come down in recent weeks, but remain well over $4 a gallon on average. And we're following more breaking news on the war in Iran. Moments ago, U.S. forces shooting down 4 Iranian drones that were launched towards the Strait of Hormuz. More on that in a moment. But first, NBC's Gabe Gutierrez has more on what we heard exclusively from the president.
Tonight, President Trump saying the Iranian regime has no choice but to make a deal during an exclusive interview with Meet the Press moderator Kristen Welker.
You have been saying for months, Mr. President, that Iran is begging to make a deal.
True.
If they are so desperate to make a deal, why haven't they made a deal with you yet?
Because it's a very hard thing for them. They've had great independence. They've dealt with very weak and ineffective leadership on behalf of the United States and other countries, frankly, that allowed them to get away with murder. And I think they can't believe they're in the situation where they've been virtually decapitated.
But if they're so desperate, Mr. President, why haven't they said yes to the terms you're proposing?
Strong, they're proud. There are things they never thought they'd be doing that they're going to have to do. They've got no choice. And it takes a little while. You know, you're talking about 47 years of getting away with whatever they wanted. I mean, this should have been done long ago. This should have been done by other presidents or other countries.
When pressed, President Trump adding that Iran has 21 or 22% of its missile capacity left. Today, he arrived in Wisconsin, backing Republicans here ahead of the midterms, touting progress in the Iran conflict and on the economy.
The jobs numbers, I guess you saw them this morning. They just got released, and they smashed all expectations by actually 3 times.
Making a push on the economy, touting today's stronger than expected jobs report. The U.S. adding 172,000 jobs. Plus, the national gas price average has dropped more than 30 cents in 2 weeks. But prices are still up since the Iran war began. Jody Loftus's family owns a trucking company.
What impact has rising gas prices had on your life?
A lot. We have faith that it's going to get better, and we have seen it go down.
She supports President Trump. Still, Democrats here think they have an opening.
Farmers are feeling the squeeze in particular with the rise of diesel prices, as well as the rise of fertilizer prices.
As for that interview, Kristen and the Meet the Press team conducted it here in Wisconsin inside a barn at the request of the White House. There were multiple interruptions when rain repeatedly was hitting the metal roof of the barn. Following those challenges, as well as a back and forth about election integrity where the president disagreed with the questions, President Trump ended the interview about 50 minutes after it began. Tom?
Gabe Gutierrez traveling with the president, and you can watch all those moments that Gabe was talking about and more of Kristen Welker's exclusive with President Trump this Sunday on NBC's Meet the Press. For more on that breaking news, though, out of the Middle East, I want to bring in NBC's Courtney Kube. Courtney, this is sort of stunning coming right out of that interview. What can you tell us about these U.S. strikes?
Yeah, so we've just learned from U.S. Central Command that the U.S. struck not only 4 Iranian drones that CENTCOM says were a direct threat to maritime operations in the Strait of Hormuz, but the U.S. has also taken airstrikes on at least 2 different sites inside Iran. Now, these were coastal radar sites, one on Keshem Island and the other in Garuk. Why that's kind of significant here, Tom, is it's not the first time we've seen them strike those sites, but one is basically at the base of the Strait of Hormuz, up towards the northwestern side of it, and the other is on the other side of the Strait of Hormuz. So the U.S. military hitting both sides of the Strait of Hormuz with these strikes here. Again, it's not the first time that we've seen it, but this has been a consistent escalation where the U.S. and the Iranian military, or in this case, the Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps, have traded back and forth strikes that just continue to escalate, Tom.
And it speaks to why we may be so far off from a peace deal. Have we seen any response yet from Iran?
Not yet. But if past is precedent here, what we've seen over the last several weeks is the U.S. takes strikes against Iranian military sites, and Iran retaliates by firing a series of either ballistic missiles or drones or both at either U.S. allies in the region, or in some cases, they've even targeted U.S. officials and U.S. personnel in the region who may be co-located at some of those military bases that are owned by some of those allies, Tom. We have to watch over the coming hours to see if, in fact, Iran retaliates in that way again.
Okay, Courtney Kube, always great to have you on that breaking news. Courtney, thank you. We're also following the emergency evacuation on the International Space Station. American astronauts alerted to shelter inside a separate spaceship as Russian crew members race to fix 2 leaks on their side of the spacecraft. Tom Costello picks it up from there.
The urgent call from Mission Control this morning ordered astronauts on the space station to begin an emergency procedure, move to the docked SpaceX Dragon capsule.
For all USOS crew members, I need you to execute procedure, EMER procedure 3.4, Crew Dragon establish safe haven.
The order came as Russia worked to patch 2 new air leaks on its side of the station. Russia says it was able to repair the first, but fixing the second leak might involve using a saw to gain access. Then Russia decided to pause the work to take more measurements. The astronauts allowed to return to the station.
So with that, we are comfortable backing out of the safe haven config.
For years, Russia has dealt with cracks and leaks in its module that NASA says have always been a concern that it watches very closely. Today, the Russian Space Agency said there is no threat to the safety of the crew. Former astronaut Steve Robinson.
Well, it's been a slow leak of air to the vacuum of space. And of course, when you're in space, that's not a good thing. You want to keep the air on the inside of the space station.
No word on when Russia will again attempt to patch the leak. This is the simulator view from the space station looking out at the Earth from the cupola. Now, this has been continuously crewed since the year 2000. The interior of the station is packed with equipment, piping, and experiments.
It's certainly concerning, and it's something they want to do something about, and so they're trying.
It is possible that NASA could again tell the astronauts to take shelter if and when Russia decides to try the patch again. You know, just like home repairs, the concern is trying to fix it could actually make matters worse, and you don't want to do that. Tom?
Okay, Tom Costello. Yeah, that's a wild one there up in space. Tom, thank you. We're going to turn now to Texas and the intense day in court as a trial for that deadly stabbing at a high school track meet unfolds. The suspect, Carmelo Anthony, accused of killing 17-year-old Austin Metcalf. Today, emotions running high as several young witnesses took the stand, and prosecutors showing body cam video of the moments after the stabbing. The case igniting a debate over race. Joining us now is NBC News legal analyst Misty Maris. Misty, I want to read to you a few quotes from that emotional testimony today. We heard one woman say she heard Carmelo Anthony tell Austin, if you wanted me to move me, you'd have to move me. And another, a 17-year-old witness, said he heard Carmelo tell Austin, touch me and find out. And another witness said he heard Austin tell Carmelo, I'm not going to fight you at a track meet. What else did we learn from this testimony today? It doesn't sound like this was a good day for the defense.
No, so this testimony related to a bunch of different individuals who were there in that tent. And We know, Tom, that there's video, but the video is very hard to discern. So the testimony of these eyewitnesses is key to both the prosecution's case and the defense case. So from the defense perspective, raising a self-defense case, they need to show that Carmelo Anthony acted reasonably and proportionately to a threat that he reasonably believed, was deadly. And so some of this testimony would tend to refute that. And the other issue is that if Carmelo Anthony is deemed by the jury to be the initial aggressor, meaning that he provoked the altercation, that then he cannot avail himself of a self-defense action. So that's where this testimony relates as far as the prosecutor and defense case.
Yeah, and then prosecutors also playing body cam video today of the chaotic moments after the stabbing, and Carmelo Anthony makes a pretty stunning admission in the video that we had heard about before.
Yeah, so he makes an admission. He says, I'm not alleged, I did it. And that's in the body cam footage. But keep in mind, Tom, that when somebody does claim self-defense, they're admitting that they committed the act. They're just saying that there was legal justification. So today, during cross-examination of one of the witnesses who was in that tent, one of the individuals who saw what happened, there was something that the defense grabbed onto. And it was that a group was crowding around Carmelo Anthony and they were standing and he was sitting. So I would expect to see more of that pursued by the defense in cross-examination. Remember, they say that Carmelo Anthony acted in a split-second decision because he was in fear, and they continue to point to the difference in size between Metcalf and Anthony. So these are all of the factors that go to that critical question that the jury will decide. Was Carmelo Anthony acting reasonably to a threat that was deadly under the circumstances?
Yeah, and this testimony about Carmelo Anthony apparently having the knife before the sort of physical part of this starting, that he had reached into his bag, that's going to be very, very tough for the defense to sort of counter. Misty, we thank you for your time tonight. We really do appreciate it. We're going to head overseas because Russian President Putin tonight rejecting an invitation from Ukraine's leader, President Zelensky, for face-to-face talks, part of a major address in St. Petersburg tonight. And Chief International Correspondent Keir Simmons is there in the room for us.
Tonight, Russia's President Vladimir Putin saying he sees no sense in meeting with Ukraine's President Zelensky face-to-face. And addressing Russian soldiers in Ukraine, Putin urging them, keep working, brothers, to applause from a hall of senior Russian officials. President Trump had encouraged a meeting, and his representative here in Russia was sitting in the front row.
I do give a good hello from your friend, President Trump.
Earlier, speaking to NBC News.
Do you think you're making progress with potential for peace in Ukraine?
One is always hopeful.
But in a long, open letter, Zelensky told Putin war was Putin's personal choice and suggested Putin's existence was threatened if it continued. A letter the Russian leader called rude.
How long can Russia keep fighting?
Until the goals of the special military operation are accomplished, Russia's Deputy Prime Minister told us tonight.
Keir Simmons joins us now live. He continues his reporting there out of St. Petersburg. Keir, has Putin given any indication that a diplomatic resolution to this war is still possible?
Well, he would like that, but he would like it on his own terms. You know, Tom, the irony of this war continues to be that on both sides, honestly, President Putin and President Zelensky would like to see the war end, but on their terms. And that's really what we saw from President Putin today. To read what he said, and it was hours of Q&A after a speech that he gave, really what he is signaling is that he still believes that Russia can win on the battlefield, despite the fact that the front line is frozen, and that he still believes that he can get a deal with Ukraine, where Ukraine agrees to surrender territory, all of Donbass, if for those who know Ukraine well enough. And of course, Ukrainians are saying very clearly that they are not going to agree to that kind of surrender of territory. And then there's another part of this, which is that's supposed to be a security deal for Ukraine in exchange. But President Putin today, talking about wanting to change the politics of Ukraine, seemed to sort of undermine that idea too. So we say President Putin is doubling down on his maximalist goals. Well, that's really what he did today. And, he described, as I said in my report, the letter from President Zelensky as rude. This gets very personal between these two. And clearly, President Putin took what President Zelensky said, talking about his age, for example, as a personal affront. And I don't think that's helped. Ultimately, the Ukrainians appear to think that they can push Russia to capitulate, that eventually the Russian people will stop supporting President Putin and this war. And while there have been shifts in Russian opinion, I'll be honest, Tom, being here in Russia, you don't get the impression, at least, that that's coming anytime soon. So for President Trump, it's hard to see how his aim of ending this war so quickly that he talked about before the election, that's actually really going to come to pass.
All right, Keir Simmons, with so much perspective and reporting from there in Russia. Keir, we appreciate you being there for us. We're going to bring it back home now. We are closely watching, as you know, the results of the election out west in California, and the races for governor and L.A. mayor. Those mail-in ballots still coming in. I want to get right over to Steve Kornacki, who joins us now. Steve, we've been here for a moment now. We left off last night with 64% of the vote in. I know you and I are both watching that 64% number because we understand that votes are coming in at any second, but they just haven't dropped yet.
Yeah, Tom, the folks in L.A. have told us they expect to report out their next batch of votes, excuse me, here in L.A. County and in this mayor's election at 4:15 local time, 7:15 Eastern time. That is right now. Last night, they were right on time with this, so I'm looking at these numbers like a hawk. But while I keep an eye on them, just set up what is about to happen here. Again, we've already projected in the mayor's race that the incumbent, Karen Bass, will advance to the general election. The question is, will Spencer Pratt or Nithya Raman be her opponent in the general election? Pratt with that lead over Raman, but the story has been that lead is shrinking as more and more of these late vote-by-mail ballots are tabulated and released. So you can see right now that is a 6-point margin. Pratt-Raman, that is 33,076 votes. That's the difference right now, Pratt's lead over Raman. Now, that may sound like a lot, but again, remember, we're not even quite at 2/3 of the vote in here. That means there's like 250,000 votes or more still to be counted here. And Raman has been running more than 10 points ahead of Pratt in these late arriving mail ballots. So you could just project that out. If that continues at that pace with that many votes left, this is certainly something she could do in terms of overtaking Pratt and making it into the general election. So again, that is what's happening there in the mayor's race. And simultaneously, I don't know, Tom, you want me to show the governor's race? Or
keep going, man. Yeah, keep going. You're on fire. This is what happened last time. It came in while you were talking.
I get scared it's going to flip and we're going to miss it. But the other thing that's also going to happen, I think, when this L.A. result comes in, implications here for the governor's race, because look how close it is right now between Steve Hilton, Republican, who right now leads, but look how close Javier Becerra is. That's a difference of just under 9,000 votes in a state this big. And again, L.A. County expected to report any second now. It's overwhelmingly Democratic. It's where Becerra's from. It's his political base. So the expectation is this update in L.A. County is also going to propel Becerra ahead of Hilton and into first place. He has been closing that gap steadily as the vote by mail comes in from around the state. We've already had in the last few minutes Sacramento County, Alameda County, San Bernardino County. They've all come in with updates in the last few minutes. It's brought Becerra to the cusp of overtaking Hilton. If and when that does happen, Becerra moving into first place, then really that's going to crystallize the drama here as the remaining third of the vote is tabulated in this governor's race. It'll then be Hilton, if he does indeed fall into second place there. Can he hold off Tom Steyer? Because, again, that looks like a giant difference between Hilton and Steyer. That's a sizable difference. But, again, because of how overwhelmingly Democratic these late arriving vote-by-mail counts have been, with that much vote left, the possibility still exists that not only would Becerra leapfrog Hilton, that seems like it's on the verge of happening, but that Steyer ultimately could pass Hilton, get into second place, and the runoff in the governor's race would be between Becerra and Steyer, two Democrats, with the Republican being locked out. So that's sort of the suspense there in the governor's race. And again, that L.A. update, boy, I hyped this thing, Tom. They were right on time last night, and I'm thinking it was going to be right on time again tonight. But so far, 7:15 has come and gone. They haven't updated it, but that's what they've told us. And when it happens, that's that's the clarity we're going to get.
Steve, let's just tap dance for a little bit. Let's give it a breather and see if it happens. I don't know, because I've worked that machine before. I don't know if you come out and you come back again, it'll refresh, but we don't know.
Right.
Republicans are saying tonight that this election is a sham without any evidence because it's taking so long. Explain to our viewers why that's not necessarily the case. It's just the mail-in vote takes time to get processed.
Yeah, there's a lot of criticisms of the system in California. There's a lot of talk that, hey, can this be changed? Can this be reformed? The reality is this: it's about a decade old. California pretty much went to a universal vote, or almost universal vote by mail system. There are still some folks who cast votes, in person on election day, but the vast majority is cast by mail. And one thing that California allows, not every state allows this, is for ballots to continue to come in if they're postmarked up to a week past Election Day. So that adds certain uncertainty. I mean, if you were watching last night, when you're seeing this number up here, this percent in, that's NBC's estimate of how many votes, total are out there that were cast. And that number has changed. Our estimate has moved around a little bit because as each day comes, we find out how many ballots arrived in the mail, and it changes that calculation a little bit. So that's a little bit of the flux right there. I do think one of the things that might have happened in particular this year to make the late arriving mail ballots so overwhelmingly Democratic is, if you remember, there was a lot of I'll go off the mayor's screen here. Well, I'll leave it on the mayor's screen and just talk about it. Mm-hmm. The governor's race there, remember, that Democratic primary on the Democratic race on the governor's side there, it's kind of an unusually wide open race. You had a candidate who appeared to be the front runner, Congressman Eric Swalwell, who dropped out, fairly late in the campaign. And so there's one theory out there that Democratic voters in particular, more than Republican voters, were kind of waiting till the end to make up their mind in that governor's race, and therefore put their ballots in the mail much later than Republicans did because of that. So that's one of the theories out there about why it might be particularly overwhelmingly Democratic. Though I will say, in general, in the history of this vote-by-mail program that California has been doing, it does tend to favor the Democrats, that late-arriving count. And we've certainly seen, I'm talking about the possibility in the governor's race here, of the Republicans, kind of being overtaken later, or Pratt being overtaken. We have seen that happen. We've seen that happen in the last decade to some Republican candidates.
Yeah, I appreciate you. I appreciate you tap dancing. It clearly didn't happen. I will say this, so Steve, I'll tell you this. I just checked some other sites. It hasn't come in. Yeah. Nobody has it. It hasn't come in yet. So something's delayed.
Pot doesn't
play,
right?
As soon as you leave, I'm sure it'll pop up. We're back in a moment with NBC News investigation into those popular Meta smart glasses, how some are alerting them to secretly record you, and the attempted carjacking gone wrong, a Marine veteran fighting off a group of teens after one of them flashed a gun in his face. That dramatic new video right after this. A Marine veteran in Maryland fighting off a group of teenagers after one of them points a gun in his face. The dramatic incident captured on his home surveillance camera. He's now speaking out to our Ryan Nobles.
Jaco Borda was working on his truck in his quiet neighborhood in suburban Maryland when he noticed a group of teenagers walk by.
They start putting hoodies on. I was like, I felt something is going to happen.
Surveillance video from the Marine veteran's home security camera shows one of the teens pull a gun and stick it in Borda's face.
I told him I raised my hands up and the keys are in, car is on. And he saw my phone. He was like, give me your phone, too.
But then his hand-to-hand military combat training kicked in.
It was that split moment when he moved his hand from my head to the side of my head. That's when I grab him and pull it my way.
You can see Borda wrestling the teen with the gun to the ground. His brother rushes in to help. Listen as the gun fires during the struggle. In the midst of the melee, the teen's gun went off. But fortunately, no one was hurt. The only gunshot ended up here in the truck. Borda's father then charges in right behind. Together, the family subduing the teens. Police say 2 suspects on the scene were taken into custody.
Was there anything in the back of your minds like, maybe these guys messed with the wrong dude?
Nothing. The first thing I thought was, how am I going to work if they're going to take my car? That's the first thing I thought.
Ryan Nobles, NBC News, Oxon Hill, Maryland.
All right, coming up tonight, the soaring cost of college. Look at the growing number of schools that could run you more than 6 figures a year all in. We'll explain. Plus, we sit down with the best-selling author, John Grisham, in our weekly series, Great Americans. We're back now with Top Stories Newsfeed. We start with an update in that au pair affair murder case. Brendan Banfield sentenced today to life in prison. He's a former IRS agent who was found guilty of conspiring with his family's au pair in a deadly catfishing scheme targeting his wife and another man. The judge called his actions evil and calculated. Banfield now has 30 days to appeal. The au pair pleaded guilty to manslaughter and was sentenced to a decade behind bars. As the cost of college keeps skyrocketing, the price tag for some schools now topping $100,000 a year. New York Magazine was first to report big names like NYU, Duke, Georgetown, and more than a dozen others you see right here have crossed the six-figure mark. This list includes some smaller liberal arts schools, too. To be clear, that's the estimated all-in sticker price with tuition, room and board, and other added expenses like books and transportation. And a dramatic rescue caught on camera in Florida. Look at this. Body cam video shows sheriff's deputies in Broward rushing to save a woman from her car as it started to sink in a canal. First responders throwing that flotation device out to the driver, pulling her towards them and carrying her to safety. The department says the car disappeared in just seconds. She was able to get out. Okay, now to an NBC News investigation into smart glasses that could be secretly recording you in the public. The high-tech frames, once just a futuristic feature in spy movies, are now a present-day reality. The maker of Meta's AI Ray-Ban glasses say they sold more than 7 million pairs in 2025. That's triple the sales from 2024. But as more and more people sport smart glasses, privacy concerns are mounting. Meta says their glasses feature a light on the frame that turns on to indicate it's recording. But our reporters found Facebook ads offering to alter the glasses to turn that light off. NBC's chief tech analyst, Joanna Stearns, takes a closer look.
Sometimes you find yourself in a stranger's garage with a drill and a dental probe. So your smart glasses can now be spy glasses.
This light tells you I'm recording, but by my count, thousands of people are out there recording without this light.
They're hiring people on Facebook Marketplace to drill out the light for as much as $100. According to our reporting, folks are offering this service in at least 30 states, despite Meta's attempts to stop it.
When people come to you, do they ever tell you why they want to do this?
No, I don't ask, they don't tell me.
There are lots of people doing this. But there are also a lot of questions. How easy is it? Is it illegal? And can anything be done to stop it?
No, they're not recording.
You have Meta glasses on?
Yeah, my Meta glasses on.
It's already difficult enough to film in public. I don't want to have a blinking light on my face.
There are plenty of reasons someone might want to obscure the light on these $250 Meta Ray-Ban smart glasses. Here's one trend that's exploded online. Rizcamming, where people hit on others while recording the interaction, sometimes secretly. There are other reasons people would remove the light, too. One journalist I talked to did it so she could cover ice in Minneapolis without drawing attention to the fact that she was recording. Others told me they just don't want people asking questions when they're recording.
Hey, Meta, record a video.
Quick Ray-Ban Meta anatomy lesson. The lens on the right side is the camera. The one on the left side is the light to indicate recording. Meta and EssilorLuxottica sold over 7 million pairs of smart glasses in 2025. So I bought a new pair of glasses to see how hard it would be to turn that light off. Meta explicitly says on its website that if the light is covered, you'll be notified to clear it before taking a photo or video or going live. So next, I bought these LED blockers on Amazon. They let just enough light through so recording still works. But it can be noticeable, which is why there's now a whole cottage industry on Facebook Marketplace where people advertise stealth mode, where they remove the light entirely and make the glasses look brand new. So I contacted one of the sellers. I agreed to his $100 price, and he agreed to let us film if we didn't use his real name or show his face. So let's call him Stealth Cam Steve. Just driving to get my light removed. This little light of mine. Not gonna let it shine.
These are set to go.
Stealth Cam Steve took us through his whole process, which he learned himself by watching others on YouTube and TikTok.
That's really flat and looks like a lens. Hey, Meta. Start recording. No light. And no alert on my phone. So no errors, totally able to record now.
We searched Facebook Marketplace in every state for this service, and we found ads for it in 30 states. In most states, we found multiple listings. In the New York and New Jersey area alone, there were 23 listings. When I reached out to Meta, a company spokesman said, "We aggressively target anyone advertising tampering tools, have removed thousands of violating ads and marketplace listings for these services, and pursue legal action when appropriate."
And with that, Joanna Stern joins us now. I guess, Joanna, my first question is this illegal, right? I mean, do people need to know whether other people are recording? And I'm sure it's got to depend state by state.
Well, it is not illegal to drill this little hole or this little lens on the camera. It is in breach of Meta's terms of service, so it means that you might void the warranty on these glasses, but you're not going to be arrested. You're not going to get a ticket or a fine for destroying the light on these glasses. What could be illegal is recording people without their consent, and there are different states, state by state, whether there's two-party consent, one-party consent, so you want to be aware of that depending on where you live and where you are in terms of a public space or a private space.
From your report there, the man you spoke to said he doesn't ask his clients why they want the lights turned off. Are there non-nefarious reasons people would want to do this?
There are. Some people I spoke to said, I'd actually be interested in that because when I record, either when I'm at a park or doing something with my kids, people are looking at me weird. They're thinking I'm recording them. And so there's like, I'd rather just people not know I'm recording, even though they're not recording something nefarious. And then there's the idea that someone might want to record things that are might be bad that are happening to them. They don't want to have other people know. One reporter I spoke to said she was using this to record ICE in Minneapolis and didn't want them to know that she was recording or using a camera.
And I guess the flip side of that is if you are that person in the park wondering if you're being recorded, is there anything you do to find out if you're being recorded?
Well, this is where it's a brave new world. There are now a number of apps that are popping up in the app stores on Android and iOS where they will alert you. You can turn this on, and there's a Bluetooth setting where you will alert you if there are cameras or glasses nearby. The issue is that you don't know if they're recording and you don't know if they're doing anything nefarious. So it's just really a way to see which glasses are in the vicinity of where you are.
This is a whole new world. You're absolutely right. I want to ask you about this new reporting from Wired that we have here. Here's what the headline says. Meta silently added face recognition code for its smart glasses to millions of phones. It goes on to explain that the code is, quote, designed to identify people via biometric data stored in users' phones. Okay, so explain to us what this means, and should people be concerned about that feature?
Well, this is a feature that is not yet shipped or is not on the Meta glasses. But the idea of how this would work is that you'd wear your glasses, you'd look at someone, I'd be looking at you, Tom Llamas, and it would tell me, that's Tom Llamas. He's the, the guy you know from that place, right?
Yeah,
not from
exactly.
television, obviously, right? It would actually be looking at more of the personal information, right? That would be the way that this would probably work. And so what Meta is saying, or what Wired is saying, is that they found this code in the Meta app, but Meta has responded, and they have said specifically nothing has shipped to consumers and no final decision has been made on what to do here, if anything. So we know that Meta is exploring this type of technology, but they have not shipped it yet.
You love testing out products. That is sort of why you're a guru in this space. Give me just your quick hot take on these glasses.
I've been wearing these glasses for many years, and I use them all the time when I'm skiing with my kids, biking with my kids. It's a great way to not hold your phone out in front of you all the time. On the weekends, I use it a lot to not have my phone in front of me. But there is this other side of it right now. And so hopefully we are going to get to a place where there are better standards around this and that we have more awareness that these cameras are really literally on our faces.
Yeah, I'm going to ask you to take your sunglasses off the next time we have dinner. But Joanna, it was great to see you as always. Thank you for everything. You can watch her full video with an NBC News subscription. That's right. Scan the QR code on your screen to download the NBC News app now and subscribe for extended interviews, exclusive content, and fewer ads. Again, you can just get that great stuff on the subscription. All right, time now for our weekly series, Great Americans, where we talk with those who have achieved so much and helped so many about their lives and this country. Tonight, a man who penned 52 #1 bestsellers, many that have become blockbusters on the big screen. His early career as a lawyer inspiring so much of his work and inspiring him to give back. Our Great American this week, John Grisham. What do you love about America?
I love the history. I love the different cultures. It's just such a diverse country.
For John Grisham, the most compelling slice of America is found in the South.
Writers write about what they know, And that's where I come from. When you have a place with such a tortured history and a long period of conflict and suffering, you have great stories. Writers are thieves. We steal stories. We steal everything. We steal names. We steal scenes. We steal dialogue.
Grisham has turned those stolen moments into a massive global empire.
Out of an abundance of caution, advise my client to take the fifth.
The undisputed king of the legal thriller.
We sacrificed the liberty the framers thought they guaranteed us.
Spanning several star-studded blockbuster films and 52 #1 bestsellers.
52. Mm-hmm. When you think about that, I mean, does it hit you, or is it just, it's what you love to do?
Both. When I started 40 years ago, I was a lawyer in a small town in Mississippi. I had no idea what I was doing. I got lucky to get it published in '89. It was a total flop. Time to Kill, we couldn't give them away back then. When The Firm came out 35 years ago, it was a big book immediately and changed everything.
The son of an Arkansas cotton farmer, Grisham grew up in a family of 5 children, eventually working his way through law school, becoming an attorney, and even serving in the Mississippi state legislature during the 1980s.
Were you a good lawyer?
I don't know. Most of my clients went to prison. Don't know about that. Most of them were guilty. I was a good lawyer for the first 5 years, and then I got the bug to write.
But it was his time as a criminal defense attorney that provided the ultimate raw material. And for Grisham, no story was more personal than his very first protagonist.
Is there a character you started writing that you just loved everything about them?
Jake Brigance from A Time to Kill.
Your Honor, I believe Deputy Looney has earned the right to speak here today.
That was very autobiographical. I was living that life, small-town lawyer, struggling with a pretty young wife, having babies and wondering about the future in Mississippi and wanting things to change down there after so many years of injustice. It never happened in real life. I had to create it in fiction.
That real-world injustice eventually pulling Grisham out of the realm of fiction, leading to his work with the Innocence Project, fighting to free the wrongfully convicted.
There are tens of thousands of innocent people in prison, and most folks don't believe that. Once I started meeting them and researching, it still keeps me awake now.
Writing about the American legal system, what has it taught you?
It's taught me that, for the most part, our legal system works, but there are so many problems that could be fixed, and I'm very frustrated by the fact that we can't fix these problems.
An American literary icon, still capturing the soul of a complicated nation.
The American dream is still real. Almost all of us believe that where you are born and what you're given, you can always improve. And a lucky break here or there, some hard work, you can get ahead. You can still make the dream come true.
John Grisham, this week's Great American. We thank him for a great conversation. Still to come tonight on Top Story, the investigation into Luigi Mangione. Lester Holt previews the latest Dateline episode, revealing new details from detectives who worked on the murder case. That's coming up next. We are back now with new interviews with some of the people closest to the Luigi Mangione investigation. 2 now retired detectives speaking out for the first time about how they tracked down the alleged killer of the United Healthcare CEO. Here's our good friend Lester Holt.
When United Healthcare CEO Brian Thompson was murdered on a street in Midtown Manhattan in December 2024, Detective Sergeant John Griffin of the NYPD's Major Case Squad helped coordinate the hunt for the killer.
Was your initial hunch targeted?
Yeah, 100%.
Now retired, this is his first interview about the investigation. He says hundreds of tips flooded in, many about health insurance disputes.
These people were fingering someone who they thought had a big enough of a grudge
Usually, yes.
to commit violence?
Yeah. When they were legitimate tips, you had to make sure that that person wasn't here in New York when this happened.
To track the shooter, investigators tapped a resource all over the city, surveillance cameras.
So that's controlled by the New York City Police?
Correct. So if something happens here, the case detective is going to look at that camera from his desk and figure out where you went.
Detective Joe Mitsopoulos, also now retired, was on the Major Case Squad then, too.
I remember us reviewing tons of the cameras that are always on the corners like that, and then it led to another block, and then led to another block.
And investigators did something that sounds counterintuitive.
Sometimes the best thing to do is go backwards. Somebody commits a crime and they just want to get out of there. Sometimes the 12 hours before that, they may not be thinking about the crime. There's gonna be little slip-ups.
But that's what you count on, is the slip-up.
Exactly.
The slip-up happened at a hostel on Manhattan's Upper West Side. A camera captured an image of the suspect with his mask lowered, exposing his face.
That was the one where he was smiling. That's when we were like, oh, we got something here to run with.
911, what is the address of your emergency?
5 days later,
It's not really an emergency. I have a customer here that some other customers were suspicious of, that he looks like the CEO shooter from New York.
Luigi Mangione was arrested and charged with murder. He has pleaded not guilty and is set to go on trial in September. Lester Holt, NBC News, New York.
And you can catch much more of Lester's new interviews about the Luigi Mangione case on an all-new episode of Dateline tonight at 10 p.m. Eastern, 9 Central on NBC. Thanks so much for watching Top Story. I'm Tom Llamas in New York. Stay right there. More news on the way. We thank you for watching. And remember, stay updated on breaking news and top stories on the NBC News app or watch live on our YouTube channel.